What's up guys and welcome back to On The Brick, where I wasn't really sure of a better time that I could show off this thing. See, the last time I showed off a custom set was Blue Bricks' newer World Trade Center, and I mentioned how it was only one part of a larger Manhattan project that they were doing. This here is Brookfield Place, and it is an adjacent part to that whole build. Now, some people might know this as the World Financial Center, which is not incorrect, but it is formally known as Brookfield Place. And I'm going to be completely honest with you guys, the only reason that I got this is because I've always thought that the buildings have looked cool, and I'm just glad someone made them in a Lego-ish form. Now, just like the Trade Center, this model comes from Blue Bricks, and this one contains 1,225 pieces. And technically it comes with 9 different buildings, but of course the main focus really is just Brookfield Place. Now, I'm not actually too familiar with this complex at all, so I'm not really sure which building is which or what everything here actually is. For instance, this model also includes these 3 buildings in the back. They are extremely identical and quite simple. I want to say that they are an apartment complex. I believe I heard that somewhere, but honestly I'm not entirely certain, so if you do know, please let me know in the comments down below. Now, this model also includes a section of the Hudson River, which automatically makes this the most inaccurate part of the whole build, because as anyone who has seen National Treasure knows,
"Sir, it's the Hudson. Nothing is visible."
But joking aside, there is a nice little port here with some nice representation of like the various boats and whatnot here. I think this is a pretty nice way of doing it, especially at this scale. You get exactly what this is supposed to be, and it's not too extreme and not too lackluster. Because of course, the main focus of this unit are the towers of Brookfield Place, which look, okay, I'm not gonna lie, they look pretty simple. Like, I don't know what it is about these buildings that has just always fascinated me. They just look really cool. I think a lot of it has to do with the roofs, but the actual design and whatnot is pretty straightforward. And Blue Bricks' version really doesn't do it justice, as they're just trying to mimic the silhouette again. However, one huge upside to this complex as opposed to the Trade Center is that the colors are actually accurate. Brookfield Place is a bunch of tan towers with sand green tops. So thankfully that is correct. I also think they did a pretty decent job of capturing those silhouettes. Like I said, you get exactly what each building is. But outside of the sand green tops, one of the defining features of these buildings are the grid-like windows, something which is noticeably missing when you design it at such a small scale. Sure, they try to mimic that by using these 1x1 squares, but it's not really the same effect. And while I'm talking about that, I almost would have preferred if they had just done like 2x4 bricks or 1x4 bricks or something that was like a little more structurally sound, because up close you do get this effect, but from far away you don't really notice. And then when you are up close, it doesn't really look that good anyway. But thankfully, I don't think it really looks bad either. I mean, after all, they did capture several things, including like the little offsets of the buildings, or things like this black area here, which is actually a greenhouse. But then they also have included bridges between the buildings and even bridges between this complex and the Trade Center. So it's kind of weird because it's obvious that they put some sort of attention to detail, but then had to let it go in certain areas. Like, they chose to sacrifice accuracy in some aspects just for the sake of scale, even though in some areas, I'm not sure how necessary that really was. Now, one of my favorite things about this build, and the entire reason that I even got it from Blue Bricks in the first place, are these sand green tops. And the reason for that is because Lego does not make all of these pieces in sand green. Sure, like the slopes here are fine and you can pretty much get away with it, but for instance, this dome piece does not exist in sand green in official Lego pieces. Meaning that if you wanted to build this model at this scale using real Lego pieces, you just can't. I mean, you probably can, but you're gonna have a worse result because of it. Also keep in mind that even if you did build this in real Lego and just substituted out some parts, you're still going to be spending over $200 as opposed to the $45 that I spent for this model. Now, unfortunately, the building of this is a little on the tedious side as well, because a lot of it is just repetitive, and that's just more the nature of building buildings. Sorry, I don't know how else to say that. You know, it's like if you ever built Big Ben or the Tower Bridge. Those were incredibly repetitive builds. And just like with the Trade Center, one of the areas that I didn't really like that in is the base, because instead of using bricks or anything, it's just plates stacked on top of plates on top of plates, which it's just tedious to do, but it did also allow for these buildings to come at an angle, because they are at an angle in real life, and if you've ever worked with Lego, you know getting the right angle isn't always the easiest thing to do. I mean, I'm sure someone out there is going, what are you talking about? Of course it's easy, and that's awesome. For a lot of people, myself included, it's not the easiest thing. Oh, and before I forget, I did love how they managed to capture these protrusions on the buildings, showing like those parts that stick out in the actual towers, adding to the architecture and stopping them from just being boring rectangles. But you'll also notice that the 1x1 modified brick with studs on two sides isn't tan, which is really only a problem if you get as close as I did here. Looking at it even just from like a normal angle is totally fine. Of course, this does line up with the World Trade Center model that I showed off last time, and they look absolutely wonderful together. Being able to see this view as if I was looking from the Hudson is amazing, especially because this is like the iconic view of both complexes now. So it's really nice to be able to recreate that in a small Lego form. Okay, but one downside of having the bases like this is that they don't actually connect together in any way. I can just bump into these and they slide apart really easily. So if you were getting multiple of these and trying to slide them together or anything, you might have to modify the bases just so they can actually connect. And I think this angle also shows you the difference in the sizes between the two units. Like, I understand why the Trade Center unit is just the Trade Center, but it's like half the size of this one. Still, I'm very happy with this one. Sure, some of the building was a little tedious, there's some design choices that I don't like, but it's not nearly as inaccurate as the Trade Center, and I do love how both of them go together. And well, that's all I have to say for this today. Let me know if there's any other models from Blue Bricks that you would like to see me show off. Leave those in the comments down below, and remember to hit like and subscribe if you haven't already. I would love it if you checked out any of my other videos, 2 of which are about to come up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.